This oil downturn is the best oil downturn that Houston's ever seen. You think about how many jobs have we lost because of this. If you look at the total number of jobs in Houston, Texas, we actually have more today than any time in history. Now, does that mean we're not going to lose jobs in the future? My forecast is we'll lose between 25 and 35,000 this year. How come we're not losing as many jobs if oil in particular is doing so bad? All this innovation that people like George Mitchell did, where George perfected hydraulic fracturing shale formations, in old downturns, not only did it hurt our oil industry, but our petrochemical industry was struggling to begin with previous high oil prices. This one, our petrochemical industry is booming. There's an estimated $331 billion new petrochemical plants being built from Brownsville, Texas to the Gulf Coast of Mississippi. Well over a third of that, 140 billions in the Houston area. We're talking about expanded or new plastic plants because Eagle Ford Shale has high quantities of ethane, which you end up making plastic out of polyethylene. As a result, we've had this other industry that's offset us. Now, let's dissect Houston, and let's look at our major legs of real estate. Now, housing is really a function of how good our employment sectors are doing. Industrial properties, highest return nationwide, they're doing extremely well in Houston, Texas. Our oil industry in Houston is not necessarily a big user of industrial properties. Our petrochemical industry is a huge user. Let's talk about leisure and hospitality because you're looking at pro sports teams. We're looking at literally restaurants that we can stack up any place against the world. The U.S. growth in leisure and hospitality in the latest 12 months is 2.92%. Texas is 4.54%. In Houston, Texas, leisure and hospitality job growth is above 6%. Wow. And then lastly, let's talk about housing sales. And we've seen a downturn in housing sales. It really didn't start triggering until, September, October, November, December. Part of that downturn has been driven by the new TRID rules, the Truth in Lending and Disclosure Statements that are functioning in the CFPB. That's true nationwide. Part of it's a downturn of some uncertainty. But if you look at all this, we just finished 2015. And 2015 was the second all-time record in the total number of housing sales in Houston region. Well, in 2014, only bested by 2014. And then if my forecast is that housing sales do go off around 10.83%, I'm talking a 12-month moving average, essentially from 4 months ago to this coming August. If that happens, then if you remove the peaks of housing sales we had during the subprime lending phase, when we made loans to people who really can't afford them, and remove the peak we basically had the last 24, 30 months because we had an all-time record oil and gas industry boom and petrochemical industry, then we'll actually being classified as a really good normal market. Now, does that mean home values aren't going down? No. One of the groups, Redfin, said that if you bought a home in the top 5%, that's essentially $1 million and up. Last year, it's probably lost 7% of its value. But if you're in a good location in that $200,000 to $500,000 range, your values may not have gone down at all. And the best way to find out is just call your local realtor and ask them what your home's currently worth.